Hey guys, this is Dinosaur Drawer, and this is the second part on how to draw the spinoraptor. Alright, so basically what we want to do now is get a couple of lines from his neck, kind of going on like this. And over here we do have a lot of wrinkly lines. You have a couple of veins going on over here. Over here would be his rib cage. So what I noticed on the spinoraptor is that it's basically kind of, the body is a little bit bigger than that of a raptor, but a little bit smaller than that of a Spinosaurus. So his movability, I'm not sure if that's even a word, but he can move around a lot quicker, but he still has the limits that he won't be as agile as a raptor. So basically what I'm going to do now is draw a couple of lines for those spines, and we're going to draw shadow in them later on, but I do want this line to be kind of a bit better visible, so that we know where his back is. Alright, so now what you want to do is you want to start with the darkest part of the shadow on top, and then go a little bit lighter once you get down. And you could actually do this very dark, but don't go too dark yet. That's just a common rule that you kind of have to follow a little bit. You can never go too dark when you're first starting to draw in these kind of things. And once the lines are getting a little bit too faded out, you just turn your pencil a little bit, and that way the lines will kind of get a little bit thinner. Right, something like that. And then you kind of just, well, let's get a shadow for his kind of back muscle in over there. Now let's actually kind of do the same over here. Kind of get a little bit of shadow in between those lines. Maybe a couple of lines over there as well. Just like on the Spinosaurus. So I'm not really using any reference anymore right now. And what I also noticed on the Spinoraptor is that he does have kind of a bit of something going on like that on top of his head, which is kind of like the Spinosaurus. The Spinosaurus also has kind of a it's not an eyebrow, but a bump right in front of his eyebrow. You can actually get a little bit of shadow going on there. Well, actually it already is pretty dark, so I'm just gonna make it a little bit lighter like this, and that should do it. We could get a little bit more of a couple more scales and a little bit more detail in this, because this part would be very dark. So you can just draw in a couple of scales. Just make it look pretty detailed. And then on the lighter areas, you just don't put down too many scales anymore. Otherwise you will overdo it a little bit. So I'm just gonna make this a little bit darker, a tiny little bit darker. That should be fine for now. We also have a lot of shadow going on, like over here and a bit over there. Just a couple of muscles that we need to pay attention to. And then we can just draw in a couple of lines, kind of going down at an angle, of course. And that's kind of the way that we're gonna start drawing in the detail. So on the bottom of this part it would be very dark, but then on the top, I mean in the middle of his belly, gets a little bit less as dark, a little bit lighter. And we could also just get a little bit more shadow at this area, because this is the area where the top of his back would be. And we just have those lines kind of coming down, but be sure to make it look kind of three-dimensional, and they disappear into his body. And then of course we would have a lot of wrinkles everywhere over here, and the wrinkles kind of change direction, kind of go like this a little bit. And then just draw a lot of shadow underneath. And those lines kind of go all the way through, but they are getting a little bit thinner, so you can kind of, so this well, yeah, this kind of stands out a little more. Something like that. Yeah, alright, so this looks kind of alright. Now we do want a little bit of shadow at his jaw over here. Something like that would be fine. And a couple of small little details over here as well. Let's get a little bit of shadow inside of this thing. And make sure to leave a couple of highlights in there. Alright, so right now this is kind of looking quite messy. So I'm gonna erase a little bit of it. It just looks a little bit too much for me. Alright, And now let's go on to this part and actually leave a bit of a highlight over there because it's a little bit rounded. A bit of shadow over there, and then just continue on drawing the shadow like this. Something like that. And of course there would be a lot of shadow over here. And then we do have a couple of lines, a couple of wrinkles and everywhere like that. And we want this part to be a little bit more pronounced, his hip bone or pelvis bone, sorry. And yeah, alright. So now what we want to keep doing is kind of give his tail a 3D effect and make it kind of look like the Spinosaurus. To do that, we're just gonna put a couple of angled lines or curved lines, I would say, going all the way till the tip of his tail. And of course it's gonna be the detail on it will be a little bit less on the tip of his tail. And of course we do need a lot of wrinkles going on over here as well, so we're just gonna draw a couple of them. Kind of go like this, and this should be already pretty okay. So it's just like building up a little bit of skin impressions, skin folds. And you would do kind of the same thing with the shadow on the bottom side of his tail. Kind of try and replicate the same kind of effect that you just did. And I made I made a little bit of a mistake over here. I didn't really pay attention, so he just has a bump on his tail. But you can kind of avoid that when you're gonna draw it. Just pay a little bit attention to that part, not to get that bump in there. Alright, and now I'm just gonna try and create a little bit of shadow on every kind of line like this, and make it kind of connect to the other lines that we drew. We'll kind of give it a nice effect. And try not to go too much into detail. Try not to go to make it too dark on the tail section, because later on we will have to give it a kind of stripe pattern on his tail, because I believe that's the way the spinoraptor looks in the game. Alright, so now we're almost about finished. The only couple of things that we still need to do is get a bit of detail in the hands, arms and legs and his feet. So I'm just drawing in his knee right now. Just a couple of indications of to where his knee would be, and a couple of lines also. So this would be a very big muscle there, kind of connected to that muscle. And then we just have a couple of muscles that go like this. And you can just try and get a bit of tone into it, make them look a little bit more believable, a little bit more realistic. So we're just going to be drawing a lot of random lines and stuff. To kind of make it look like those dents are supposed to be there for the muscle. Now for this muscle let's just draw it in like this. And of course a lot of shadow over here, but also a lot of shadow over there, to make it look kind of three-dimensional and round, like it's a rounded object. Then there's one kind of line over there for his ankle, and a couple of lines that kind of connect to the toes, which are actually muscles. But don't draw that in too dark, otherwise it will just look a little bit strange and not like it's supposed to be. Now what we could do is get the nails in, the claws, like that, and get a couple of those scales in to really get that Jurassic World, Jurassic Park kind of look, and draw the bottom part of this a little darker, just a tiny bit of shadow. So that should be okay for 1 foot. Alright, now we're gonna do kind of the same pattern as what you saw over there. So over there would be his ankle again, and then we have a muscle that goes like this, and of course a bit of shadow on this part of his leg, and then of course you could draw in the claws and put a couple of scales in there, just to get that Jurassic Park / Jurassic World kind of look. Really want to give it a look like it belongs in the Jurassic Park universe. Just a little bit of shadow over there. Alright, so now we still need to put in the muscles for his arm. So we're just gonna draw this part like this, like there's a huge wrinkle over there. A couple of huge wrinkles, actually. Like I said, we really are trying to make it look like it's believable, and like there's a lot going on. So there's a muscle over here, very large one, Alright, and then his elbow over there, and then we have like a muscle that goes like this, and then over here would be his pulse or his wrist. Yeah, that's just pulse is the same thing in my country as wrist, and it's also the same thing as pulse. So those are two things with the same meaning in my country. Alright, just kind of do the same over here, but make sure you do get a couple of wrinkles over here. Over here we have a muscle that goes like this, and then over here would be his wrist again. And a bit of shadow over there. And of course also over here, because it's on the inside. And now we can just draw a little bit of shadow everywhere on his fingers, and also draw in those scales like what we did on his feet. Alright, so now what we want to do is kind of create a couple of stripes, kind of a pattern that the Spinosaurus has on Jurassic Park 3, or at least the concept art of the Spinosaurus. It looked like it had those stripes on his tail, and I'm not sure if it has any other stripes. I'm just gonna take a quick look at the reference. Alright, so it seems like he does have a couple of darker spots everywhere, but just gonna draw it in like this. Just a couple of darker spots, and also over here he also has a couple of darker spots. And a couple of them are actually kind of going up here and then kind of going down like this. So not all of them go like this, but kind of looks like this, tiny bit. This is just for the extra kind of detail. You can just leave it like what it was before, but you could also just kind of try and get those darker spots in there. And it isn't pronounced like this everywhere. It's just at some places it's really pronounced. So I'm just gonna make this look a little bit darker. Alright. So I think that we are about done. I'm not sure about this part, what I did over there. I'm not sure if you really want that, if you really do like that effect, you can draw it in, but I don't really like it, so If it were up to me, I would just leave it like as it was. But yeah, I'm trying to get it as accurate as I can get it. So yeah, if you like the video, leave a like, comment below what you think about the video, and by the way, I still have to do my autograph and the name of the dinosaur. Alright, so yeah, if you like the video, leave a like, comment below what you think about the video and the drawing in general, and don't forget to subscribe. So this was Science the Drawer, and goodbye.